I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, October the 26th, and I'm going to talk to you today about the Northern Plains discount. And I'm not just talking about the fat cattle, I'm talking about the feeders right now. I know you guys watch here regularly. You see me talking about the big sales up in the Sandhills in Nebraska, over into South Dakota. Some of those really good strings of cattle up there, and there's no doubt those are the best cattle in the world. The genetics are outstanding, quality, you can't beat it. But I tell you what, there is just so many calves moving in that country right now that it's got the market covered up. And you know, it's a little bit to do with having so much quality. And I know that sounds stupid, but you know, I only speak the truth on here. And at DV Auction, we're all about genetics. We sell some of the highest genetic bulls in the world every weekend. We had 20 sales last Saturday. We'll have another big swath of them coming up here this weekend. And if you're in the market for a bull or some high quality replacement females, you can get on there and shop around on our online catalog. But these genetics are getting so good that they're making these giant calves that you can't sell. And I'll remember growing up, I'll tell a kid story. I hate to tell kid stories because I'm closer to 50 than I am 40, but a lot of things haven't really changed. But I remember back in the early 70s, my dad bought a lot of cattle in the country in eastern New Mexico, probably our best customer for over 20 years in a row. Lived just outside Logan, New Mexico. When he first started selling or buying their calves and of course reselling them, they had 400-pound Hereford calves. He said you could call the wrong number and still get them sold pretty good. It was not a big deal. Those cattle had a lot of value. That ranch just kept working on their genetics and working on you know, the quality of their herd. And by the early 90s, they had 700-pound calves that you couldn't sell, or you had to put so much wheels under them to get them a long ways from there, that it took all the good out of them. And last I heard, they were in a marketing cooperative with their bull man to get their calves sold, to get out of them what they felt like they needed. And that's what a lot of them have to do. But you know, everybody wants a big weaning weight. They want a calf that they don't have to pull, and then they want it to grow as fast as they can possibly grow it, which is great. We're moving cattle through the system from the time they hit the ground until they're hanging on a hook faster than we ever have, and probably twice as fast as we did you know, back when we first started doing this thing on a high commercial level. But I tell you what are you going to do with a 700 to 800 pound ball and calf? Nobody wants to feed one of them. They're going to melt on you. Sure, they got great genetics and everything's great, but when you got something that nobody wants, you might have been better off raising a 600-pound calf that had a little bit more value to it, and bottom line might bring just as many dollars per head and wasn't quite so hard on your cow. But we could argue about that forever, but I'm just saying that you've got to give your buyer some value at some point. You see these guys at Background Yearlings, they know how to add value to them. They try to keep those cattle as green as they can whenever they turn those cattle out to make yearlings with them. They don't supplementally feed them too much. You know, maybe some Rumensin blocks in the summertime, and just tease them a little bit to get them in when they get ready to ship. But keeping those cattle green, keeping a lot of compensatory gain to them, which means that those cattle got really a right to be bigger and heavier than they are, and when the buyer takes them to feed, they get a little extra go out of them right on the start. And that's what everybody wants. But I tell you what, there's so many big calves moving up in that Northern Plains country, up in the Dakotas, up in Nebraska, especially western Nebraska, that it's just got the market flooded with those cattle. And the farther you get away from them, actually the better the market is for the way things are and for the quality they're buying. But let's look at the board. October live cattle futures up 7 cents on Thursday, 10 today at 113.35. December was down $1.27, ending at 117.07. About the only longs we have in the industry anymore is our speculators, whether it's hedge money managers or just people trying to look for an opportunity to make money in the market. They need a little proof. They know it's time for the market to come around. They're ready to start getting in. They're looking at these numbers as they come in, and we're starting to see bullish fundamentals. That's what they want to see. They want to see whether these feedlots can sell cattle higher or not. It's kind of like a Missouri deal. You know, you got to show me that you can do that. They know that this fat cattle market's ready to jump off and get up in the 20s. Well, ask $1.15 for the cattle this week and put your heels in the ground. And that's the only way you're going to do it. You're not going to get any more money for your fat cattle show list if you don't ask for it. And that's where our speculators are at on the board. They want to see that. If they start seeing some results out of all these positive fundamentals and the seasonal uptick, then they'll jump in the market, and then the board will follow suit. The board's supposed to follow suit anyway. We're not supposed to have the futures market telling the current market what to do all the time. But October feeder cattle down 65 cents on Thursday, into the day at 154 even. November down 197, also right in there tied at 153.95. Corn was down 7 1/4 on Thursday, which at 361 now. Most elevators, country elevators up in the Corn Belt, are under 3 1/4 for cash corn. Your fat cattle through Wednesday, like I said, that's a positive sign. The Northern Plains hasn't started pulling the plug on a lot of these cattle yet. Only 6,800 head through Wednesday sales, and that was all, of course, in Iowa and probably the eastern edge of Nebraska there. But the sales were from 110 to 112. But heavy on the 111, 112. That's a new number, that 12. But I don't think the southern guys are going to settle for that, and I don't think they should. I would sure think 114 would be in the cards, and probably ought to bank for 115. And there's sure a right to get it this week. Your dress market on a few sales there earlier in the week, 175 to 176. Just a little smattering of trade early on Thursday, and more of the same. But box beef cutout values have been higher all week long. Choice cuts $213.10 on Thursday afternoon, up $1.71. Selects at $198.31, up 49 cents. And a big choice select spread now, $14.79. Your slaughter's been good all week. 475,000 through Thursday. 8,000 more than last week, 7,000 more than the same week a year ago. And the actual slaughter data for the week ending October 13th, they had to crank up the slaughter a little bit more on those after they got all the information in. We're getting rid of these cattle guys, and these packers are selling the meat, and it's all a positive deal. And now it looks like we've gotten out of some of these heavier carcasses, because on the information ending the week at October 13th, the week ending there, your steer dressed weight's down 4 pounds from the previous report, 899 pounds. That's still 3 pounds more than the same time a year ago, but 2 pounds less than the 5-year average for the date. But all those things are pretty positive. Now let's look at your feeder cattle markets. The real-time index on Cattle Market Central on Thursday afternoon, sitting at 151.39, down just 9 cents. So finally starting to see a little bit of a bottom there. And Pratt, Kansas, had a good sale, 2,500 head on Thursday. It's hard to read the trend there on the federal state market report, but basically on steers, he said there was a lot of steady, with some as much as $7 higher. Heifers steady, with a few as much as $4 higher. But basically your market was best on some 7 to 8 weight cattle, some cattle that are going to eat up a lot of corn and cheapen themselves back up. Looking at an individual quote on Cattle Market Central, 56 head of Pratt steers weighed 835 pounds at 166.50. We haven't seen that all week, guys. And then we just talk about getting away from a 600 to 750 pound big fat calf. Just anywhere you go to get away from that, even up there in South Dakota, Presho, South Dakota. But we're talking about 1,100 pound steers. 55 of them bring 146.10. That's a heck of a price there. I saw on Facebook there, I'm friends with Jim Herzog, his family. Mocan Livestock Market in Butler, Missouri had another big string of cattle off that Roy Acres estate. And he's one of the guys that knew what he was doing, and they're passing it on to those that are left behind that are still managing his estate there. Keep the cattle green. Buy the good ones and keep them green, and that's sure what he did. Had some lightweight yearlings there, which you cannot find. 143 head of good green black-hided yearlings, 764 pounds, 174.85 there at Mocan Livestock Market, Butler, Missouri. And then Brian Curlis, a friend of mine there and world champion auctioneer, he told me about a set of steers that he sold in Fairview, Illinois at the sale barn there, trying to get them on Cattle Market Central. Don't have anybody really in that eastern Corn Belt country there, and we'd sure like to have them. These are some green yearling steers off of some strip mine fescue and a good condition on them. 65 head of steers, weighed 797 in Fairview, Illinois, 164.50. That's it for this week. Going to be at Price Farms Angus sale in Elk City, Oklahoma this weekend. If you guys are around, stop by and see me. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.